Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Alundra. Today we'll be exploring that room we found after traveling through the caves, basically in front of the ocean. This is called the Fire Manor. It's one of a couple of little optional dungeons that we can access at this point in the game, that we have most of the items that we need to surpass most of the obstacles in the overworld. We'll start with a very simple puzzle. The game mentions that we need control of flame, and apparently control of flame basically means playing Pong of sorts. This little fireball will bounce in a more or less random direction whenever it hits a boundary, and we're supposed to direct it into these 6 flames. It moves a little bit faster every time a torch is lit, but it only does 1 point of damage if it actually hits Alundra, and it will eventually light all 6 torches. So you could very easily just leave and make yourself a sandwich, and more likely than not you won't be dead, and in fact if you're emulating you can just save state before it starts. You'll see that 3 of the torches are basically lit just by me waiting for the flame to get back to me. So that was pretty simple, not particularly interesting. Say more dialogue. I don't know what that snake thing is, it's just there for flavor, I suppose. It doesn't really come up in the mythology of the game at all. Guess what we have to do again? There are 4 torches here, so yes, we have to repeat the exact same puzzle we just covered in the previous room, but in slightly smaller quarters and with some weird stuff on the floor that we'll have to deal with a little bit later. It's 3, yeah, see, 1 point of damage from getting hit, no big deal, and 4. Just be patient, I suppose, it's not particularly hard. Again, I use the flail here because it gives you a little bit more reach. So, I don't know what the puzzle is here, I'll be completely honest with you. All you really have to do is follow this flame around these little tiles, and it'll move, it moves in a preset path, and I think you're supposed to eventually memorize it. But I haven't actually figured out what the penalty is for failing. I mean, there are a couple of points where it takes me a while to catch up with the flame, longer than you'd think. The guide actually says you only have a split second. I don't know, it wasn't hard at all for me. I don't know what the deal is, it's a bit vague. Anyway, for doing that we get the fire wand, and I guess that means I lied a bit when I said that having the power gauntlet and the spring beans gave us total access to everything in the world map, because obviously we do need this item to burn down some of the briar patches that we've seen in some of the previous areas, and now we'll be able to do that. So I guess it will be best to say that we can access all the screens in the world map now. Now there's some sort of small obstacles that we can access in standard Zelda fashion. You know, one or two little things in each area that we can now sort of pick up every time we pick up a new item. In this case, starting with the fire wand, or just, I guess, sort of the broadest class of obstacles that we have yet to actually be able to surpass in the game so far. It's also a weapon, which as you can see here we can use with both a regular attack and a charge attack. The charge attack is quite strong. I think it's actually the strongest weapon we have right now, or one of them anyway. Stronger than the charge attack of the regular sword, although that'll be changing quite soon. To the right here we can pick up this rock with the power glove and pick up the Gilded Falcon. It's 29 in total. Now, I believe what we're going to do is head back to that one cave I saw on the west side of the world map that we needed the power glove to get into, but had a staircase on the right-hand side that can only be accessed with the fire rod. Obviously, now that we have the fire rod, or you know, some nebulous fire-based item that I hadn't really talked about yet, that obviously just turned out to be a wand. A little disappointing, I know. The weapon itself is not terribly exciting. As you noticed, you can actually take damage from a little pool of fire that you poop onto the ground. So, unless you happen to be running into an enemy that's weak to the fire rod, and I'm not actually sure how many of those there are in the game, it's not really the sort of thing you want to use unless you know you're going to need it to complete a particular objective in this area, as opposed to the sword or the flail, which obviously carry no particular, you know, dangers of damaging yourself with your own weapon, which is a little silly. It's certainly a lot less exciting than having the fire rod and something like Link to the Past, where you could use it, or where you could use it like the magic wand in the original Zelda game, just machine gun enemies with magic, as long as you had any. But I guess it's a trade-off for the fact that magic in this game is completely unlimited to keep you from just using the fire rod all the time. So here we are, there's that cave I was talking about before. I guess we'll finally get to find out what was worth heading down this right path for. Again, there are actually a couple of points where burning down briar patches is required, so picking up the fire rod in that little optional area is completely mandatory, even though it isn't entirely obvious. Hey, a chest, let's go pick that up. Over to the left, yes. As you can see, we're going to be using the spring bean to get back out of here, and of course that chest is not a chest, it's one of those gross mimic things. Pretty much every chest, yeah, I didn't really notice the pattern yet. Walked right into that guy. Pretty much every chest in this area is one of those mimics. The Fire Rod happens to be pretty good against them because they're stuck on a little platform, and they do take multiple hits of splash damage from the individual Fire Rod shots. Holy cow, look at that thing move, that is incredibly creepy. That chest is actually a chest, contains herbs though, so we don't care. Anyway, yes, thank you, please kill that thing. So what did we come down here for? There's obviously a chest we're supposed to notice there in the center. What the heck is inside that? I mean, I wouldn't be sending us down here if it was just for more consumable items, which are obviously completely full up on, and have been for quite some time. The prize here is a life vessel. Now, if you've played a lot of Zelda games before, oh, of course, that's a mimic. Yeah, okay, please die. Thankfully, they drop a lot of gold. Not that we need gold anymore. Alright, anyway, if you've played a lot of Zelda games before, you'll recall in games like Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time, there are a lot of little side caves you can explore that aren't large in the same scale as some of the main dungeons in the game, but provide an interesting little challenge and often contain hidden or optional items. This is the first of these caves that we've really explored in Alundra so far that's totally optional, and obviously we need the Spring Beans, the Fire Rod, and the Power Glove to even get in here. It's a little weird that some of these areas have come up basically not until about the halfway point in the game when we had all these items in the first place. It's like the first part of the game where we were mostly railroaded from dungeon to dungeon by the storyline was like preparation. I do not want to deal with you right now, go away. So, like most of the regular dungeons in the game were like training mode, where we learned how to use all the items that were eventually given to us. Now that we actually have the ability to move all around the world map more or less at will, the game is throwing a lot of the game is opening up a bit more to us, and we can explore these optional areas more or less at will. I thought the way that was designed was kind of interesting. It could also be just because they were too lazy to figure out how to make sure the player was not stuck in an area where they wouldn't be able to get back out again, like that cave right there, where we could get in very easily without the spring beam, but not get out without it. Anyway, I mentioned this a little bit before, but you could jump up these columns and move over here and get this Gilded Falcon. During the previous episode, I had mentioned I thought you needed the Power Glove rock to get that, but you don't. Now that we have 30 Gilded Falcons, we can exchange a couple with Merrick. First we'll get for 25, which is another life vessel. Again, every odd multiple of 5 is a life vessel. Every even multiple is an equipable item. The first one obviously increased our offense, so based on standard adventure game patterning, should be pretty easy to figure out what we're going to get for 30 Gilded Falcons. The Silver Armlet, which increases your defense. Another awesome item to have for boss battles in the late game, where offense doesn't really make that much of a difference, and every weapon does about the same amount of damage. So, let's go see what else there is to do. We are now at the Riverside Pub. I believe somewhere north of here is another bush that we have to burn down. And please forgive me, I get lost quite frequently during these sequences before I finally find something for the first time. Yeah, where the heck are we going? Again, there are a bunch of briar patches that I know exist from exploring the world previously. It just takes me a minute to find some of them. Yeah, this one we've seen a couple of times in the game so far, and just from passing through the area. And of course, it contains another life vessel. We notice we've started to pick up life vessels from our random exploration of the world map, which isn't something that that happened before. Most of the optional chests we found were Gilded Falcons. Skip a bit. Now we are, I believe, back near the cave where we got the other life vessel earlier in the game. There was you'll notice there was a Power Glove stone way back where we were before, but there wasn't really much to do on the other side of that. So, another briar patch. This area is a little bit annoying because there actually is a secret passage to the west besides those trees. What we really want here is the water book, which is the upgraded water magic. I will be showing that later. You see there's a chest over there that you can't reach from here. You can actually pass through the trees to the west. But if you've already fallen down to this little ledge over here, which is where you think the level is leading you, you can't actually get back to where you can pass through the trees. So the only option at this point is to go all the way back around again, and that's only if you realize there actually is something hidden here in the first place. Again, it's phenomenally difficult just to find the little area that you're supposed to pass through to get there in the first place. It's not particularly well designed, although it is kind of obvious that there is absolutely no other way to get there, considering the rest of the area. See, there we go. Considering the rest of the coastline, there's no other accessible way to get there. So yes, another Gilded Falcon, wonderful. That makes 31, 19 to go. Making good progress. We're picking up collectibles left and right. Let's get out of here and skip to the next area, which is... Alright, so now we are, I believe, back by Olin's house. Let's discover. Some of the overworld areas kind of blend into me. Yeah. We're up to the north of the area. We're up back by where the coal mine is. We've passed by this area a few times on the way to the Magiscar, but we never actually burned down this patch. I believe I actually mentioned it while we were exploring up here in the last episode as well. We can burn down that patch and move here to the west, to the north of the coal mine, and the original coal mine, and Lars's crypt, to another small cave. Again, like I said, all these little caves that are basically just there for flavor and for optional stuff, we could simply not access them until we had access to the rod, or the glove, or the beans. So let's see what this one holds for us. Not even any enemies. It's basically just like a time-filling cavern over to whatever the heck this is. You can see we're in the Magiscar area again. We probably saw this chest a few times, again passing through towards the Magiscar itself. Contains another life vessel. That's 35 in total. 15 of those to go. So the next thing we want to do, I guess our last objective in this particular area for this episode, is another area in this general sort of northern mountain place. So let's head over to the east, to the Mount Torla area, pretty close to where we picked up some of those random Gilded Falcons and life vessels that I tended to I don't know, I tended to mine this place whenever I wanted to find exactly one more item just to round up my my counts. So as you can see, there's an entrance a little bit to the south of us that requires the fire rod to get into, and of course we also need to get into this little hidden passage here in the cliff, which I will eventually make my way into. I don't really understand this whole, like, secret passage thing. It's surprisingly difficult to wedge Alundra in there, considering how important it is to actually get in here, and how obvious it is there's something there. Now, there's something annoying here. You can actually go down to the south here, and it seems like this is where you're supposed to go out. But again, it's another area where you can't return, where you're really supposed to go to the west. And again, you have to go all the way back around again and return if you fall off by accident. So, I don't know. The eye tends to lead you over there, at least just because it's an open space, but there's really nothing there of value. Where we want to go, eventually, you can head up to the north, it contains another strength elixir, which we don't need. But in this cave is, any minute now, the Ice Manor. Gee, I wonder what we get here. Considering what we got in the Fire Manor, and considering how closely this game sort of derives its items from Zelda, there's the Ice Rod, obviously, in Zelda games, which is much easier to get than the Fire Rod, and could be gotten much earlier. So I guess I decided to mix things up a bit by switching the direction of the two, and making the Fire Rod the easiest of the items to get. Or I should say the Fire Rod the first of the two to get, and obviously we need that to get the Ice Rod, so let's complete another one of those sliding column puzzles that we should be familiar with from Klein's Dream, and move to the second room. This dungeon is a little bit longer. It is also mandatory. In fact, the Ice Rod is required to beat a boss in the game. It's the only weapon that particular boss is weak to. So again, while these dungeons do give sort of the illusion that they're optional, it's really more a consequence of the fact that the game very suddenly opens up exactly at the halfway mark, other than the plot-based dungeons like the Murd Tree that we'll eventually be entering. Simple switch puzzle, and now we've got a bit of a different type of moving pillar puzzle. The goal here is to go from that altar all the way to that chest. There's no story like there was with the Fire Manor. Nothing tells us that we're not worthy of the Ice Rod. All we really have to do is move these ice columns until we can jump from column to column and make our way to the northern part of the room from that little altar down there in the south. You do have to basically use all 6 pillars to get there, and I suppose there are a couple of different ways you can go about doing this. Those little kneeling, like, griffin statue things, women, I don't know what the heck that's supposed to be, or they look kind of male, masculine, I don't know. They actually get in your way, so you have to jump around them. So it's this jumping puzzle is actually fairly difficult, considering if you're hitting the wrong direction when you're short of hitting one of these ice columns, you will push it to the wall and ruin the whole puzzle and have to start all over again. And yes, of course, that last jump is always the most difficult to make. Maybe it's just me, but I don't know. Anyway, let's try this one more time, get to the end, and that earns us, surprise, surprise, the second of the 2 elemental wands, the Ice Wand. Right, so what do we do with this? Well, we're going to leave, but we're mostly done with a lot of the simple exploration, so we'll carry on with some more interesting objectives on the next episode of Let's Play Alundra. I will see you then.